Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. Little enthusiasm, please. We are now 7 days away from Decision 2024. And, I would say, and then you don't have to hear about it anymore. No, we're probably going to be counting votes for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, maybe weeks. Who knows? But at least we're getting closer to the election day, even though I'm talking to a bunch of people who have already voted, and I've already voted. So for a lot of us, election day has already happened. But let's talk to my first guest, Joe Proenza, back on from the American Principles Project. Welcome back to the James Show, sir. I got to hit this button. All right. First things first, the polls look like they're moving in Trump's direction. Am I just watching too much Fox News? Because I think I even saw CNN and MSNBC admit it.
Oh, yeah. You had Steve Kornacki. I watched a clip this morning, in his crazed way that he is, watching the national polls, not just these state polls where Trump is starting to do well, what we need for the Electoral College, but nationally, it almost appears that Trump might win the popular vote. Everything's starting to trend in our direction. The word is cautious optimism right now for the Trump campaign. I think they're starting to see stuff on the ground. I read a report today, Kamala Harris pulling money off of the airwaves in North Carolina and moving it to where I live in Virginia to try to stop the bleeding here a little bit. I think they know she's in trouble.
Ooh, you think Virginia's on the table?
It might be. My wife and I, we voted early a couple weeks ago. You were saying you already voted. I think these early voting numbers in Virginia and a lot of these states that have been seen outside of the Republicans' reach are starting to come in. Now, I still think Virginia's something of a long shot.
Yeah, I mean, Virginia's not even a toss-up state. I'm looking at my Real Clear Politics map, and it leans blue.
Absolutely. It does lean blue, but the early voting numbers are key here, and they're starting to trend way in the Republicans' direction. In 2024, the Trump campaign and outside groups have done a tremendous job of incentivizing voters to vote early. So I'm not here to put the flag in the ground and say that Virginia's going red this year, but I think it underlines a bigger, broader point. We're dominating in the early and absentee voting like we've never done before, and that's a great credit to the Trump campaign strategy.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Virginia because I haven't really done a dive into this state in months, and there's a real dichotomy going on here. The Real Clear Politics average has Harris up about 6%, which is kind of what I expected. But within the polls, there are two of them. Rasmussen, which has a history of being more accurate than some of their neighbors, and there's a university poll that both just have her at 2%. And then there's some other polls that are way, way away from that number, 6, 8, and 11. So someone's right and someone's wrong.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, the thing that you're seeing in these early vote numbers and in Virginia a little bit, too, is that it's voters that don't vote that often. It used to be that Democrats benefited from voters that voted less frequently. But the coalitions have been shifting, and it appears that the Republicans are benefiting, especially in Southwest Virginia, are benefiting from voters that don't vote that often, maybe vote in, every other presidential election. But it really looks like we're trending in the right direction. And if we're that close in Virginia, she's got no chance in North Carolina and Georgia, and we're going to pick up at least one of these Rust Belt states.
All right, what's going on with all the fires? There was one in Phoenix, and then there was one in Oregon and Washington State, although those happened like 15 minutes apart. But still, are we having some issues with drop boxes?
Look, that's a wild thing. And, the fire in Washington was especially concerning because that's a congressional district that should be a Republican district. They pulled some tomfoolery in 2022 and Joe Kent lost. That's a Republican-ish area that drop box got burned. Joe Kent, who's hopefully going to be a member of Congress soon, is in a tight race there. And you got to wonder what's going on with these kinds of things. You start to see these weird things, makes you very nervous. Everybody's got to be vigilant. Those poll watchers out there and those people watching Dropbox continue to do God's work by making sure we secure the vote for November 5th.
Well, they think it's the same guy who did the one that's in Portland, and then just across the river in Vancouver, Washington, Clark County is that sort of red district that you described there. They think that was the same dude. Now they found him, but jeepers, they can't figure out his motivation, Joe. What might it be?
Well, I mean, and this is always the case when there's something like this happens. When something bad happens to a Democrat, the motivation is clear. It was a psychotic Republican let loose by Donald Trump. But when it's something that happens to Republicans, we can't really figure it out. It's kind of confusing. Motive's unclear. Don't get to see the manifesto or anything like that. This is constant media manipulation to try to emotionally confuse the American people who aren't, crazy people like me and you who are just dug into this stuff every single day.
Joe, observe today, how little are we hearing about Trump getting shot in the ear? That's already been memory hold. We act like that doesn't even happen. I've heard more updates about the Uvalde school shooting in the last 2 months.
It's just unbelievable. James, I cannot imagine had Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Barack Obama been nearly assassinated that we would not be having everyday symposiums on everything that went down. We know everything about the shooter. The president mentioned in an interview he did recently, this guy's got encrypted apps. The guy that shot him in Butler got encrypted apps and all sorts of stuff. The guy that almost tried to shoot him in Florida was in Ukraine. We don't know anything about these shooters, what their foreign connections were or were not. And it doesn't seem like the Secret Service or this Biden and Harris administration cares to give us any information about it.
No, they don't have any detectives working on the case or not. They should be working in shifts, but they're just wrong about all these stories just over and over and over. And it's one thing, if it's something silly but kind of political, like a Jussie Smollett, but we're talking about a guy almost killed Donald Trump.
It's truly remarkable, and it just kind of goes to the level that they're willing to go because they saw that sympathy for the president. And you saw it in his poll numbers. He went up dramatically after he survived the first assassination attempt. They knew that they couldn't continue to keep this in the news because the people would understand, nobody's taken a shot at Kamala Harris. And why is that? Why are the people that are insane and taking shots at people not taking shots at Democrats? Well, it's because they're the established order, and President Trump's a threat to that establishment.
Well, we're also not running around in our platforms saying they're Nazis, they're akin to Hitler, and they're Putin's best friend, and they're basically genociding the Palestinians. Just the horrible things, racist, sexist, big, and homophobe. All that horrible, sensational talk, it only goes in one direction. We're about out of time here. AmericanPrinciplesProject.org. Why does someone need to go check out that website?
Look, we're closing in hard right now. We know that the Rust Belt is the key, and we're focusing our last week of efforts on Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. We need to win one of those and sweep the Sun Belt, and President Trump and J.D. Vance are going to the White House. And so please visit us at our website, AmericanPrinciplesProject.org. If you can support us, please do. We're going to fight to the close. James, always good to be with you.
Thank you very much. Joe Perowin's American Principles Project. Coming up next, the election's 7 days away, but we're already having a disturbing amount of tampering. We have some ballot box fires and a couple other things going on that I think you need to be aware of. You'll hear about it in about 5-6 minutes. If you want to give me your early voting report, you can be a freelance James Show reporter. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is The James Show. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. How'd your early voting go? 800-288-9227. I'll take your early voting report. It just takes a couple minutes of your time. I want to know where you voted, how long it took you to vote. Did you see any shenanigans, even if everything went smooth? I'd like to hear that too. 800-288-9227. I'm concerned, though, about these ballot drop boxes and some other election shenanigans that already seem to be happening. Because when we talked about early voting, we had this discussion last Monday when early voting first started. Is this even a good idea? Should we be doing this? And one of the concerns is if you have drop boxes, people can tamper with them. If you do early voting and whether they get scanned or not, something could happen to those paper ballots between now and Election Day or between now and whenever you try and do the recount. People can slip extra ballots in there. People can take ballots out of there. People can destroy ballots. There can be a fire. There could be a flood. There could be a lightning strike. It could be, I don't know, you get invaded by moths and they chew them up. Who knows? But we're starting to see some of that now. I go to ABC News, just so you know that I'm not making this up and it sounds legit. We are seeing Dropbox fires. plural.
And an investigation is underway following the discovery of an incendiary device inside a ballot box in Portland. Meanwhile, in Vancouver, Washington, ABC affiliate KATU captured the moment heavy smoke was seen coming from inside a drop-off ballot box.
Okay, a couple of things to observe already is they make it sound like, oh my goodness, this is happening in 2 different states. Technically, that's true, but these ballot boxes are about 15 minutes apart by car. They're not far. Vancouver, Washington. It's not like Vancouver, Canada up at the top. It's a suburb of Portland. And so it's pretty reasonable to believe that the same person did both of them already. It's also reasonable to believe that incendiary device means something. Because in this other instance, I'm going to show you, the one in Phoenix, they don't say incendiary device. It sounds like you just lit a piece of paper on fire and stuck it in a box, which isn't going to do much because there's no oxygen in there, or not enough oxygen to sustain it. Accelerant definitely helps. But anyway, it was probably the same dude. Now, let me go ahead and skip forward. That was the original report. And then when they were talking about it on CNN last night, here's Wolf Blitzer with his guest.
I want to bring in CNN Sarah Murray. She's working the story for us. So what are you learning, Sarah?
Well, Wolf, obviously this is very disturbing. We don't yet know what the motivations are behind this, but officials are saying that there appear to be 3 different instances that are linked. The ones that we're hearing about today that took place in Oregon as well as Washington, and one that took place earlier this month in Washington State, where there was an incendiary device that was somehow attached to these ballot drop boxes and caused, these kinds of videos that we're seeing here, these flames and ballots burning. In Oregon, they said it was just 3 ballots that were impacted and that they've reached out to the people who were impacted. And in Washington State, though, they said there are hundreds. And so they're basically telling people, if you cast your ballot over the weekend in this drop box, to check the ballot tracker online.
All right, so let's hear your theories. Someone trying to mess with the election? Someone just being a butthead? Is it a crazy person who has no idea what they're doing? They just throw cigarettes in boxes or like piece of paper on fire and put them in other post office boxes. We just don't hear about it because it's not affecting the election. I don't know, but they said it doesn't appear to be election related. Now, on the surface, you have reason to believe, and you heard my last guest and me talk about this, anything that happens up there in Vancouver, Washington, well, that's sort of a red area. That could be someone trying to help out Team Blue. But the other drop box was in Portland, which is a blue area, so someone's helping out Team Red. So maybe it's just someone trying to commit chaos. Maybe it's someone who doesn't like early voting and they want to show the dangers of it. Maybe it's like an Antifa person, because Portland is sort of the beating heart of Antifa country, if such a thing exists. But, they have one of the strongest Antifa presence possible. Is that even bandied about in the whole discussion with Wolf Blitzer and his guests? No. What did ABC or CBS talk about that? No, that wasn't part of the speculation. I didn't watch what NBC said. But let me skip forward or go backwards in time. There was a ballot fire in Phoenix, and the local radio station KTAR had the Phoenix mayor on, Kate Gallego, and she was saying, well, we don't know what his motive is, but we sure know it wasn't political.
We were very glad to find out that after interviewing the suspect, it was not focused on the election. That was not what this individual was thinking when he put a piece of paper on fire and put it into a mailbox.
Don't believe it. Maybe I'm just becoming too cynical of an old man. But what? Oh, I've set fire to a ballot box? No, that didn't have anything to do with the I didn't even know that's what that was. Shut up. Come on. Do they not know? Do they not want to know? Do they know, but they have to lie about it? 800-288-9227. How can someone setting a ballot box on fire, drop box, not be politically motivated, not be politically influenced at all? Well, there's nothing political about this. Yes, there is. It's like saying the guy who shot Trump's ear, he's not politically motivated. Of course he is. All right, let's get some Freelance James Show reporters in here. Constance in Corinth, you're on WBAP. Go.
Hi, I went to vote, and I asked the woman after she asked me for my ID, I said, well, what if somebody doesn't have an ID?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just did the music to make it exciting.
Okay, so then she said, well, we have other things to work around that. And I said, well, what if they don't have proof of citizenship? And she said, well, everybody's been vetted before they come to this place.
Ooh, that's not the proper response, is it?
I was shocked because I'm finding out everybody's not vetted.
Oh, no, you would say people. How dare you say that? Just because I've detailed news reports over the last couple of weeks about how many non-eligible people are on voter registration rolls. It's terrible for you to make that assumption. How dare you be well informed on the topic?
I was shocked in Texas for sure.
Well, turn her in. But file a complaint. Make some paperwork happen. Call the I don't know. You call your county or you call the Secretary of State. Send me an email. I have the links, and I'll send them back to you. The people who you contact.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Yep, voting shenanigans. Let me know. James@WBAP.com if you can't call in. Let's go to Betsy. Hello, Betsy in Lake Worth. You're next up on WBAP. What did you see early voting?
I pulled up into a handicapped spot because I am handicapped, and a lady was out there with the voting machine and rolled it right up to my car. So I opened my door and leaned out and voted. That was the easiest voting I've ever done.
It's like voting at Sonic.
Kind of, but it was better than that.
All right. And how long did it take?
Maybe a minute.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. All right. Well, good to hear. I'm glad we were so accommodating, and thank you for sharing your story. Betsy in Lake Worth. If you want to be an adjunct James Show reporter, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, you'll hear from the oil patch about what's going to happen to your price of gas. You know, the whole Iran, Israel, Middle East thing kind of flaring up again. Will that affect your pocketbook? Find out in 8 minutes on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, here's today's explanation on why you're such a Nazi and why do you support Nazis. I don't know. I debated on whether or not to even play you the joke. It's not going to get me in trouble. It's not like it's a obscene joke or a foul joke or even really that offensive of a joke. I mean, you would have to apply a really strict, narrow interpretation of this joke. I mean, it's a big stretch, Armstrong, to pretend like this is an offensive joke. But I was enjoying not hearing the joke. I didn't hear the joke when it happened at Madison Square Garden. I was too busy watching the Cowboys embarrass all of North Texas. And then I saw a bunch of reporting on it, but I never actually went back and listened to the joke, saw the video of the joke. So I didn't even know what everyone was freaking out about. I just knew it wasn't going to be that bad. And then when I saw it, I'm like, this is even less offensive than I expected. Because this Tony guy, Tony's from Kill Tony, and he does roast for a living. And I'll play you some of his other work coming up. But this is the joke from the hate rally, the Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden. That has such an amazing overreaction. I played you some of it yesterday. I'm going to play you some of it after this, but this is what started it all.
You know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Okay, so that's it. Now, that's what's being called the most racist thing you've ever heard. Now, he didn't even talk about the Puerto Rican people. He may just be referencing the fact that it gets pretty beat up by hurricanes on a regular basis, or maybe their infrastructure isn't up to snuff, or maybe it's just kind of poverty stricken into some effete first world observer. You know, it looks less than awesome. But that's it. That was the joke. That's what's got everybody all fired up. Now, immediately, one of the pushbacks I saw was people saying, well, check this out. There was a rally in Phoenix with Tim Walz, and George Lopez was speaking at it, and he told a Mexican joke, and no one's upset at him. No one says he's a Nazi. No one says this is a hate rally. No one's calling for his head.
Donald Trump said he was going to build a wall, and George Lopez said, you better build it in one day, because if you leave that material out there overnight.
Oh. I mean, that's kind of a funny joke. It's definitely not offensive. I'm not losing any sleep over that. But let's go view. Let's go listen together. You're going to love this. This is so silly. How this is reported on in the media. I think Rachel Maddow's probably my favorite, but she's talking to a former Undersecretary of State. I know the name. I just didn't recognize her when I first heard it. What was her name? Dylan? Anyway, let's listen to how this is talked about. That cute little joke. I guess it was kind of funny. Let's talk about how they're blowing this up.
This is the third election in a row in which Russia has tried to interfere to try to get Trump into the White House. How do you assess the magnitude and the type of interference they're attempting this year compared to what they've done in his previous 2 elections?
I mean, listen to that. This is their election talk. Now, Victoria Nuland is who she's talking to. I just remembered her name. So they've already interfered in elections. This is the 3rd election in a row that Russians interfering in. Do you notice how fast they go back and forth between the election was all on the up and up and Russia interfered with the election? It was the most safe and secure election ever, but Russia continues to interfere for 3 elections in a row. Anyone who questions the election is a threat to democracy, except for Rachel Maddow. When she questions the integrity of the elections, then she's fighting against Russia. I don't know. The answer Victoria Nuland gives isn't very reassuring either.
Well, as you said earlier, Rachel, he's at it again. This time he's not even trying to hide his hand, and he has far more sophisticated tools. You know, his AI is better, so he can make these fake videos.
Oh, wait. You mean like cheap fakes? Oh, the things that turned out to be real?
He has done things like spend $10 million trying to buy American influencers and get them parroting his lines and not even know it's happening.
Oh, my God. Look, y'all, it's a bad thing to pay off influencers to spread your message. Like, they don't do that. Like, we don't know that there's a bunch of these accounts that are paid for. We've seen the funding. We know. We know Harry Sisson's paid for. We know Brooklyn Dad's paid for. We know JoJo from Jers is paid for. If you don't know these people, that's fine. That means you're not terminally on X like I am. But there's paid influencers on both sides. So don't act like this is some sort of Nazi thing or even unique.
But he's also got a brand new, very, very powerful tool, which is Elon Musk and X. You know, in 2020, the social media companies worked hard with the U.S. government to try to do content moderation, to try to catch this stuff as it was happening.
All right, now check this out. When it's government colluding with big corporations to spread information that is actually incorrect, Hunter's laptop is real, masks don't work, that is, they're working hard hand in hand with government to prevent the spread of misinformation. But when Elon Musk does it, oh, no, that is rigging an election.
Happening, but this time we have Elon Musk talking directly to the Kremlin and ensuring that every time the Russians put out something like this, it gets 5 million views on X before anybody can catch it. So it's quite dangerous. Although I do think the American electorate has gotten more sophisticated and more savvy about this stuff.
So she's just making this up. She doesn't know that. There's no connections there between Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin. And by connections, not that they've never met or been in the same room or communicated. She has no evidence that Putin's trying to control what gets flared up on X and what doesn't. They're just making this up. Anyway, let's scoot ahead here. They're really focusing on this Putin thing. And I just want you to remind you, Putin was asked last month who he would like to win the election. He said Kamala Harris. He said, actually, we'd like to keep Biden, but between Trump and Kamala, he'd take Kamala. So where is this coming from? They're just making it up. Hey, misinformation police. I've got one for you right here.
Putin doesn't think it's important to try to look even with any semblance of even-handedness in this election. He knows what he wants. He wants Donald Trump elected.
Dude, how can you say that? He was asked. He answered Kamala Harris. This lady's just coming out and lying, and Rachel Maddow's like, yup, boy, that sure is the truth. I mean, they just go straight up back and forth. Russia's colluding. All right, here's where Rachel Maddow took it. She almost said the H word. She almost said Hitler. I know, I'm not supposed to say that because it's the secret word. But she does accuse, and you haven't heard this before, but let's see if this one tries to stick for a week or so. She's accusing Trump of creating a new Axis powers, an alliance with the most evil countries on earth. Because I don't know, they're going to start another World War II or something.
Of an American led by an admirer of Putin who puts the United States not as the leader of the free world, but rather into effectively a sort of axis with the dictator of Russia and the dictator in China and North Korea. And I mean, for the United States to be allied with those countries instead of our traditional alliances, I'm not sure people have absorbed the magnitude of what you're just describing there. But maybe we will. Victoria Nuland, former Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, career.
Oh, stop scaring the crap out of yourself, Rachel Maddow. Yeah, that's right. That's what Trump wants to do. Now, when he was in office the first time, he didn't do it. He didn't create a new Axis powers. And yeah, he's saying he wants to throw giant tariffs all over China, but secretly he wants to ally with them. Yeah, he says he's going to bomb them if they fly any planes over Taiwan. But secretly, he's creating a new Axis powers. So, he's pretty much, okay, I'll say it, Hitler. Coming up next, I would like to hear some of your early voting reports. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. And you'll hear from Anthony Russo from the Truth Will Set You Free podcast next, coming up on the election. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, I remind you, we are now just 7 days away from the election. A bunch of people have already voted, and we're about to find out who the next president's going to be for at least the next 4 years. Here to keep a magnifying glass on the situation, Anthony Russo from the Truth Will Set You Free podcast. Welcome back, sir.
How's it going?
Going pretty good if your name's Donald Trump and you're looking at the polls. Do we trust the polls? They seem to be moving in his direction.
I mean, I don't trust any polls, but when everything is showing one direction, you have to just believe that things are looking up. I mean, at this point, there's just no way with the way Kamala has handled her campaign. There's just no way that anybody can think that she's truly winning the White House. It's all an issue of how many people can they get to show up to vote against Donald Trump. Anybody that's passionate about Kamala Harris is. It's the same way they do the low IQ thing. I feel like that's where it's at. You could be an anti-Trump person. I understand it, but when it comes down to the end of the day, actually having excitement for Kamala, I don't see it from intelligent human beings.
No, and what's her slogan? Even what's her bit? Does she have a "Make America Great Again"? Does she have a "Build Back Better"? Does she have a "Hope and Change"? What does she have? What's even what?
Her slogan is to demonize Trump. Her slogan is to actually say things like Nazi Germany and Hitler and all that stuff. That's invoking fear. When the whole campaign, when it was joy and hope, was about the Republicans all being about fear, and then here she is. The only thing she can fall back on is by calling him Hitler at this point.
Yeah, there's war with Russia. There's war in the Middle East. Your groceries are 30% higher, but at least you can have an abortion.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, you trade a couple things and you worry about the weirdest, most obscure. I mean, I get why that's such a hot topic for people, but at the same time, you've got one of the most middle ground Republican candidates in decades when it comes to pro-life and pro-choice. All he did was he was the one that shifted Roe versus Wade. But they're campaigning on something that, they can't even use Trump's words because Trump's words have been very open-minded. What they have to use is Project 2025, and then they have to pin that on him. It really is mental gymnastics that only works because she has 90% of the media in her bag. Without that, I did some interviews this morning. I would honestly say if it was a fair and free, unbiased media in this country, that there's a chance that Trump would win 46, 47 states for the Electoral College. That's how big of a landslide it would be. But when you have the misinformation in the media and them holding Kamala's water, this is what we get.
So what was the October surprise? We're kind of out of room for October surprises. Did one happen and we just missed it?
No, I don't think we missed it. I think what the October surprise was the fact that we called that they really were able to pin the whole thing on Nazi Germany, the generals and all of them saying all these things about Trump being a Nazi and praising Hitler. That was the attempt at an October surprise to get those generals to speak out. It was a very weak October surprise, to say the least. And I don't think Trump really needed one, except for just the fact that Tulsi Gabbard, changed her party. You've got RFK. That was, a September surprise, I guess. And then you've got the fact that he truly, actually, I said this a long time ago. I said him on Joe Rogan's podcast would be an October surprise, and that actually happened. So I was spot on that. I think that level of popularity and momentum is really the surprise that they had. So I think that it was a light news month in terms of October surprises, but it's definite that things have shifted in terms of momentum drastically in the last month.
I got to tell you, I'm a little freaked out about the Dropbox fires with ballots being burned already. Am I right to be concerned about that?
What state weren't those in that was like Pacific Northwest?
Okay, so we had one in Phoenix last week, and then yesterday, super early in the morning, there was one in Portland, and then right across the Columbia River in Vancouver, Washington. So the boxes are like 15 minutes away, but technically it was in two states, and they think that was the same person. And then we've just had issues already with ballot boxes and drop boxes. Do you foresee shenanigans?
I mean, of course, there's going to be shenanigans. How deep are the shenanigans going to be is the big question. That's where, I mean, in all reality, the firebox. I mean, if you look at a ballot box fire, I mean, how many is counted? It's ridiculous. It's crazy that we live in a country that's actually happening. And they're, the drop boxes, I think, are just a ridiculously stupid idea. But it sets it up for that. But I really, truly believe that this election is the epitome of too big to rig at this point. And again, not just because Trump has run a good campaign, but because Kamala has run an absolutely horrific last 2 months of a campaign.
Truth Will Set You Free podcast. What are you talking about over there next?
Well, you know what? It's Truth Tuesdays, and you know what Tuesday is?
The election.
Tuesday is the election. We're going to have a long live stream that night, starting probably around 7 or 8 o'clock. And we're going to go until we think we know who the next president of the United States will be.
Well, you can't live stream for 4 days straight.
That's a very funny statement.
Well,
so,
no, Pennsylvania is not expecting to have all their votes counted until Friday.
I get it. That's accurate. But if it is drastically in one favor, they'll be able to call it. And I think Pennsylvania is the key state. I think that, I really think we'll know by 2 or 3 a.m., to be honest, because I do believe that right now we've made it too big to rig.
I like your optimism. Anthony Russo, Truth Will Set You Free podcast. Thanks for being on the James Show again, sir.
Take it easy. Show up and vote.
All right. Freelance James Show reporters. Let me hear from you. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I want to hear you. I want to hear your thoughts. Whether, even if it went smoothly, where'd you go? How long did it take? Did you see shenanigans? And on that, the Puerto Rico joke, I played for it was that the last segment? I like Jon Stewart's response to it. Before I played Jon Stewart's response, let's see the media overreacting, because Jon Stewart's going to be responding to the media overreacting to the Kill Tony joke.
The opening act, grabbing headlines for all the wrong reasons. A comedian who offered unfunny, racist, cringeworthy jokes.
Basically calling Puerto Ricans trash.
The most repulsive racial jokes about Latinos.
Disgusting.
I don't think that was
hateful.
So incredibly crude.
Frankly, just too X-rated to play here.
Extremely vile, so-called jokes.
That was too X-rated to play. See, there's a reason they didn't play, because if you actually heard it, you would think it's not that bad. Here's Jon Stewart's reaction.
Now, obviously, in retrospect, having a roast comedian come to a political rally a week before Election Day and roasting a key voting demographic, probably not the best decision by the campaign politically. But to be fair, the guy's really just doing what he does. I mean, here he is at the Tom Brady roast a few months ago.
The great Jeff Ross, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff is so Jewish, he only watches football for the coin toss. Gronk, you look like the Nazi that kept burning himself on the ovens. Kevin is so small that when his ancestors picked cotton, they called it deadlifting.
Yes, of course. Terrible. Boo, yes. There's something wrong with me. I find that guy very funny. So, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, bringing him to a rally and have him not do roast jokes, that'd be like bringing Beyonce to a rally and not have...
Oh, the crowd doesn't like that one as much. Oh, only a few claps. That's because, Beyonce went to the rally in Houston and didn't sing. All right, freelance James Show reporters, let me hear from your early voting adventures. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, we're starting the show over. I can start over. I have my notes. I'll just... Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, what good am I if I don't give the board op some grief every once in a while? I want to hear your freelance James Show reports of early voting. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. 9227. Now, some of the feedback I've been getting in addition to early votes, I really like it when y'all just write in either on a Facebook message or on an email, like 1 or 2 sentences of what we were talking about. I know it only takes you a second, so it's not that much of an effort, but I don't know. It guides me more than you think. You know, just the feedback I get, and I don't get a ton. So even if I don't write you back, I read everybody's email. I get from listeners now, like if it's a hot, heavy show, I'll get 100. If it's a slow day, I'll get like 5. On a normal day, I get like 20 emails from people writing in. And hopefully one day the show will be so big and so popular, I won't have time to do it. I'll have to have, I don't know, Sean read all my emails for me and just pass along the ones that are worth my time. But right now, even if I don't write you back, I read them all. And what you see in the background, or what you would see if you went through my emails and my social media, it's not a bunch of Nazis. It's not a bunch of hateful people, not a bunch of racists foaming at the mouth to oppress people who happen to have a little bit darker skin than they do. They're all laughing. They're almost all having a good time. They're almost always sending me a meme or a joke, or I can't tell you how many times I get an email saying this part of the show was funny. That's it. So it's doubly funny to see these people get themselves so worked up. I played Jamaica yesterday. She did it again. I'm almost going to have to start watching the MSNBC morning show just because it's so funny. Just as a quick aside, do you remember Melissa Harris Perry? I know you probably don't, but she had a weekend show on MSNBC, and me and Mrs. Parker used to record that. We had it on the DVR, and we would wake up, and if you just flip through and skip the commercials, like a 1 hour MSNBC show, you can watch the whole thing in 20 minutes. We used to get up, and that used to be one of our rituals on Saturday. We'd get coffee, and then we would just laugh our ass off at Melissa Harris Perry because she was so worked up. Everything was racist to her. You know, like a Tootsie Roll commercial, whatever it is she thinks she sees becomes racist to her. Now listen to Tamika, because I don't know if I should be playing like the sad music or if I should be playing like the baby crying under it. But let me do the sad music. Or I should play like the Damien theme, the Omen music. Let's try sad violin. These people, I don't know if they believe this, but if they do, good. Work yourself up. Lose sleep. Give yourself an ulcer in your stomach. You're worried so much about us being Nazis.
I think a lot of people are seeing that rally at Madison Square Garden, seeing all those people. Doesn't mean he's going to win the race. But my point is, it's discouraging that so many people would gather and rally to hate speech.
Is that what they're doing?
In America.
Just running around hating?
It's discouraging, and it hurts.
Does it hurt?
That people who have family in Puerto Rico, who are Puerto Rican Americans, who are American citizens, are hearing hate like that. It's discouraging. And it's not just, oh my gosh, about the race. It's, oh my gosh, how did we get here? How did we get here where a stadium of people come to hate? That's a different country, a different time.
Yeah, that's what it is. They're there to hate. They're not there because their groceries have gone up 30% in the last 4 years. They're not there because people are mutilating the undercarriage of minor children. They're not there to, I don't know, maybe not grow government at such a breakneck speed. They're there for hate. Why do you hate so much? Why do you hate this country? Why do you hate non-white people? Why do you hate gay people? According to Mika Brzezinski, that's what your entire movement is built on. That's what this entire election campaign is built on. I know it's sad. If they liked babies, they would have a crying baby right now. If they were allowed to have babies these days. Can you still have a baby and be in the Democrat Party? Or would you be scolded? Hey, you're supposed to abort that thing. What are you doing? You're making us look bad. Having kids, next thing you know, you're going to be married and voting Republican. Was that on the air or just in my ear? Oh, okay. All right. Well, we won't share that joke then. Jonathan Capehart, also... everywhere he looks, he sees a Nazi rally. I just love these people. They're so worked up over this.
Donald Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden comes days after his own former chief of staff went on record to describe his former boss as a fascist. But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place, is particularly chilling Because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler,
he said it,
packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners.
Stop!
When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly.
All right, hang on. We just can't do this anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, how about we all just live with the rule? If you're on Team Blue or you're an undecided voter, or maybe you're a young person who just accidentally stumbled onto talk radio for the first time, if your biggest selling point is that the other guy is a Nazi, don't vote for that person. That person is lying to you. That person does not have anything better to shake your vote off. Wow. That's like that's kind of like admitting that you've lost the argument whenever you have to call somebody Hitler. Yeah, well, I want to lower taxes and I want to lower the cost of groceries and lower the price of gas. You're Hitler. Just consider that a win. Just all right, if that ever happens, yay. You've won the debate. These people, I hope they're being sincere. I hope they really do think that was a hate rally full of Nazis, and I hope it bothers them. I hope it really does hurt her to think about how Puerto Ricans got their feelings hurt by a joke that they didn't even hear. That wasn't even that bad. That they would probably make themselves. 800-288-9227. These people are going to drive themselves crazy. If you have an early voting report, 800-288-9227. We'll find out just how crazy these people are going to drive themselves with Lee Richardson from the Brain Performance Center next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.